Good morning, Ravi.
Samarambham Shankaracharya
Madhyamam.
Asmadacharya
Acharya
Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam.
Paramparam.
Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti
Om
Shanti
Shanti
Shanti.
Shanti.
Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya.
Namah
Om
Shivaya.
Namah Shivaya Acharya.
Okay, so in the last few karikas we saw that it was said that the immortality of jivas is an established principle. Then jiva is always immortal. It never becomes mortal. So we are talking more about that. And this is karika number 10, which we will chant. So please unmute yourself. Jara marana nirmuktaha
Jara Marana Nirmuktaha.
सर्वे धर्मा स्वभावतः
Sarve
Sarve
Dharma
Svabhavata
Swabhavataha.
जरा मरणमिच्छन्तः
Jara
Jara
Marana
Maranamichantaha
Michantaha.
च्यवन्ते तन्मनीषया
Chavante
Javante
Saya
Tanmanishaya.
Okay. So, sarve dharmaha. So here dharma means the jivas, jivatmas. Sarve dharmaha jara marana nirmuktaha. All jivatmas are free from jara, old age, and maranam, death. How? Swabhavataha. By nature itself. It is the very nature of the jivatma that old age cannot touch him and death cannot touch him. But what do these people do? Jara maranamichantaha. They think that they are subject to old age and death. And tan manishaya. Because of that very thought. Which thought? Jara maranamichantaha. That I am subject to old age and I am subject to death. What happens? Chavante. Chavante means falls. And falls into what? We have to supply. These people, they fall into samsara. So even though all jivas are totally free by nature from old age and death, what does jivatma do? He thinks I am subject to old age and death. And because of that very thought, that thought itself is called samsara. So jivatma, which is none other than the Paramatma, we have seen that, by very nature is free from old age and death. And although this is true, that you are actually immortal, what do? Jara maranam icchantaha. You condition yourself by the thought that I am mortal. And because of that strong conditioning, you fall into samsara. So what is needed is the Vedantic knowledge to remove this conditioning. So this understanding that my thinking process is incorrect, that I am not really subject to old age or death. This understanding we call removal of samsara, right? And this understanding takes only a few days of work. But the conditioning is so strong that we need to go through various Prakarana Granthas, various Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, again and again and again. We need to listen and do mananam until it dawns on us that really speaking, I am free from this thought. This is only a thought which is mistakenly in my mind, and I should not be conditioned by that thought. Okay. Now, the next Karika, Karika number 11. Please unmute yourself. We will chant. कारणं यस्य वै कार्यम्
कारणं
कारणं यस्य
वै
वै
कार्यं
कार्यम्
कारणं तस्य जायते
कारणं तस्य
जायते
जायते
जायमानं कथम् अजम्
जायमानं
जायमानं
कथं
कथमजम्
भिन्नं नित्यं कथं च तत्
भिन्नं
भिन्नं
नित्यं
नित्यं कथं च तत्
So tasya means for that person. Which person? Karanam jayate. The person who holds the idea, the view that Karanam is born. So Karanam jayate means Karanam is born. And tasya, for a person who holds this kind of a view that Karanam is born, yasya, and for whom Karanam vai karyam. The cause is the same as the effect. Katham jayamanam ajam. How can this entity which is born ever be ajam, ever be birthless? And katham tad bhinnam. How can that entity which is constantly changing, nityam, how can that entity which is constantly changing become eternal? Okay, now all these karikas, they are very, oddly worded. They're very confusing to look at individual words. So we'll try to understand the overall gist first. Okay, from this Karika onwards, that is Karika number 11, what is happening is that Gaudapada has taken up other darshanas for the sake of refuting them, right? There are several darshanas, as you know, some are Astika, some are Nastika. And among the Astika darshanas, those days, in Shankaracharya's time, there were two very powerful groups. What are they? The most powerful Astika systems are what?
Buddhism,
ज्ञान कर्म समुच्चय
I said Astika system.
Sankhya philosophy.
सांख्य
Yeah, because I said Astika, you cannot take Buddhism, okay? So,
Okay.
so Buddhism was very strong, but Buddhism is an
Yeah.
Astika system. Therefore, Astika means Sankhya and Nyaya Darshanam. These two were the most powerful groups in those days.
Right.
Okay, so why were they powerful? Because they have their own theories of creation, and they try to establish that the world is actually born, that Karyam is actually born, and Gaudapada says no, Karyam is never born. So this is a refutation of Sankhya Darshanam as well as Nyaya Darshanam. You will recall that in the earlier Karikas, Gaudapada said that there is no need to refute these two groups. Why?
Because what they say reveals that there's no creation at all.
Because those groups, they refute each other.
Yes.
This we had specifically talked about. That Nyaya refutes Sankhya and Sankhya refutes Nyaya. Therefore, they are refuting the theories of creation. And therefore, Gaudapada said that refutation itself is what I am saying, that there is no theory of creation at all. Right? But here, he specifically negates Sankhya. Right? So, we must note that in Brahma Sutras, whenever we reach that, okay, in Brahma Sutras, the entire first chapter is basically negation of Sankhya philosophy. And therefore, it will appear that Sankhya was a very major competitor of Vedanta in those days. Okay. We have to also note that Gaudapada does not touch upon the Nyaya system at all. Nyaya Darshanam, Gaudapada doesn't touch at all. And what is the difference between Sankhya and Nyaya? The basic difference in creation theory,
Satkaryavada and Asatkaryavada.
which is what? Which is which?
Sankhya is Satkaryavada
And Nyaya is Asat
And
Karyavada. Right.
Asat Karyavada.
So if you
Yes.
want to define Sat Karyavada in one line, what would you say? How would you define Sat Karyavada in one line? Nobody?
Something is born from a already existing cause, maybe in a different form, but it is already existing.
Yes. So Sankhya
Yeah.
says that any karyam, any product which is born, right? The word is born is in inverted commas. That born product is already existing in the karanam, right? Like when the pot is born, we say pot is born, right? Pot is created. But Sankhya says that that is a misnomer. The word creation simply means manifestation. The pot existed in the clay before its manifestation. That is Sankhya Satkaryavada. Satkaryavada means the Karanam was all the product was already there. And what does Nyaya say? Nyaya says no. The before the pot is born, it is non-existent. Now Gaudapada doesn't talk about Nyaya Darshanam. So we need to understand why is it that there is a flaw in Nyaya Darshanam. So we can look at it in two ways. First, Nyaya Darshanam, the very basic theory is what is born does not exist before. Is that clear? It comes into existence only when it is born. That is Asat Karyavada, which means that anything which is born did not exist before. Now you can look at it in two ways. One is purely grammar. In the sentence, a non-existent thing is born. What is the verb?
Is
What is
born.
born?
Born is
And what is the subject?
hmm,
Whatever thing
Non-existent
is
thing.
born.
No subject here, non-existent.
Will you
no
explain that? Why
subject.
there is no
Non-
subject?
Because it is said as non-existent, so one cannot say that there is a particular subject over it.
Right. When a non-existent thing is a subject, it means there is no subject. Can you have a sentence having only a verb but no subject?
No,
Correct?
a subject and object both is needed. Subject and
Subject,
verb is needed.
verb is needed, right? So you are in this case, there is no subject at all. And therefore, grammatically itself, the sentence, a non-existent thing is born, is a contradiction. It doesn't stand to even the rules of grammar. So that is the first thing that we say. Nyaya Darshanam, on the grammatical grounds alone, it can be rejected. What is the second one? Origination of a non-existent thing. It is against the basic law of Vedanta. What is that basic law? Can you
Matter
quote from
cannot be
Bhagavad Gita?
created, cannot be destroyed.
That is E is equal to mc squared. That is physics.
Yeah,
But
right.
where is the pramanam in Bhagavad Gita? Anybody?
Chapter 2,
Yes.
Avyaktadini Bhutani.
Vyaktamadhyani
Can you use
Bharata.
that? Nothing.
Right. I hope
Yeah.
everybody is following the argument. I'm not getting into that particular verse. It simply says that what was before unmanifest has become manifest now, and what is manifest now will become unmanifest after its so-called destruction. So birth is called the manifestation of something which was unmanifest earlier, and destruction is the non-manifestation, disappearance of the manifestation of something which was manifest now. That is Pramanam from Bhagavad Gita. right? And of course, physics says that E is equal to mc squared. The principle of law of conservation of matter and energy. They can never be destroyed. They can only change forms. And therefore, how can the Nyaya philosopher talk about something which is created? Because if you are talking about a fresh creation, you are talking about the creation of matter. If you are saying it was non-existent before, then you are saying that matter has been freshly created, which is against both Vedanta as well as physics. And therefore, from this point of view, also, Nyaya philosophy does not stand scrutiny. And this is the reason why Gaudapada does not consider it worthwhile to negate Nyaya. I hope we are clear on this. It's a very important thing for us, even though it's not part of the Karika, because there were two basic schools. One is Nyaya and one is Sankhya. We should know the refutation of both. The refutation of Nyaya we have discussed. Any doubts on that? Well, if you are silent, it can mean that you have doubts.
No doubts.
No, Acharya, this is clear.
Fine. Then we look at the basic principles of Sankhya. Sankhya is called Satkaryavada. And Sankhya Darshanam says that only that which is already existing can become a product, can be born. So when a pot is produced, no fresh matter is created. What happens? The configuration changes. Earlier, the pot was in the clay form, right? And now that clay form has been transformed into pot form. And therefore, Sankhyavada says that similarly, every product in creation exists in some form or the other. Pot existed as a lump of clay, curds existed as milk, tree exists as seed, and therefore a karanam, a cause, is nothing but karyam in some other form. Okay, so there are two paribhasha shabda, which means definitions. Paribhasha is definition, words of definition. One is called karana avastha, this the state of being a cause, and one is called karya avastha, the state of being a product. So when the pot is produced, what happens? When the potter produces the pot, the karanam is clay, right? And that karanam is in karana avastha because pot has not yet been produced. When the potter sits and the pot comes into existence, what is happening? The clay itself is undergoing a change. There is vikara, change. From what? From karana avastha, which is clay. And that karana avastha clay comes into a new shape, the pot, which is the karya avastha. And therefore, there is only a change of avastha, right? That is what that Bhagavad Gita verse says. Avyaktatini bhutani. Only a change is taking place. Now, when the change of avastha takes place, certain features which were dormant in karana avastha will come to manifestation in karya avastha. This manifestation of dormant features in Sanskrit is called abhivyakti. Abhivyakti literally means manifestation. Now, can you tell me when the pot is produced from the clay? The clay is karanavastha, the pot is karyavastha. What features which are not which are present in the clay but not manifest are now manifest and present in the pot?
Shape,
For
size,
example, shape.
Yes. mainly shape, and because of the shape,
Utility.
utility, you have utility, you have transactability.
Yeah.
All those things come in
Right.
only because of the manifestation of the features. It's not that features were not there. Features were there in dormant form in clay, but now they are manifested. Remember that the change, what has happened? The clay has transformed as a result of the potter's efforts into a pot. So the result of the potter's effort is what? It is the pot. And in Sanskrit, the word is parinama. What does parinama mean?
Change
What does
or
parinama in Hindi mean?
Effect, result.
result or
It's
effect.
the same thing. The result of the potter's effect is that the unmanifest features in the clay become manifest in a new form called pot. This transformation is called parinama. This is important because in some texts you will find Satkaryavada referred to by another name, Parinamavada. So whenever you come across the term Parinamavada, he is talking about the existing features unmanifest in the Karanam having become manifest as a result of some activity or the other. Right? And therefore, the difference in the clay and the pot, karana karanayoho avastha bhedaha. The difference in the karanam and the karyam is only difference in avastha, state, and natu vastu bhedaha. There is no difference in the substance. For example, water has three states: ice, water, and
Water vapor.
Water vapor.
or steam, whatever, ice, water, steam.
Steam. Yeah.
These are all the three avasthas of what? Of the same substance, which is water. What are the features of water which are unmanifest, which manifest in ice?
A shape.
Solid. Ice is solid,
Yeah.
right? Ice is cold, while water can be lukewarm also. Same
Yes.
way, steam is gaseous and burns, which is not there in water. So these two features of being cold as well as of being heated, those are actually there in water, but in unmanifest form. It is the transformation, the parinama, which converts the water into ice or into steam. Essentially, this is what is said by Einstein when he says E is equal to mc squared. E is energy, m is matter. He's saying energy can convert into matter, matter can convert into energy. There is no question of destruction of matter at all. Right? So this is the first idea that we need to remember, that in Satkaryavada, only features are being manifested. There is no fresh production of anything. Then, Sankhya says that the cause of the world is Prakriti. Sankhya's Prakriti has another name. What is that?
Maya.
Maya is Vedanta.
Okay.
Mula Vidya.
Mhm.
Yoga Sutras, nobody? Pradhanam. Heard the name Pradhanam?
Yes,
I'm
Acharya ji.
sure I've spoken about it earlier, but you guys have forgotten. So Sankhya says the cause of the world is Prakriti, but they use the term Pradhanam. And they also say that this Pradhanam is eternal. It is Nityam. Okay, this is the second main aspect of Sankhya. What was the first aspect of Sankhya? That there is a transformation of Avyakta Karanam into Vyakta Karyavastha. Right? Transformation of states. And second is that the cause of the world is Prakriti or Pradhanam, and this Pradhanam is Nityam. And there is a third important principle which says that the world is born out of this pradhanam, and therefore this world is a karyam, a product. Karanam is pradhanam, the fundamental matter. Pradhanam essentially is a fundamental state of matter, and karyam is the world, the effect. But while they say that pradhanam is nityam, they say that prapanchaha, the world, is anityam. So these three principles we will deal with. There are some other principles also, but we are not really going into Sankhya philosophy right now. We're talking about some three basic principles of Sankhya which is dealt with in the following Karikas. And Karika, these three Karikas, 11, 12, 13, they look at these three principles and point out the defects. So before starting, I'll summarize Sankhya philosophy once again. The Karanam and the Karyam are not different. They are only different states, different avasthas. Karana avastha, Karya avastha. The Vastu, the substance is the same in both. Right? And we can understand this from clay pot example. The second tenet of Sankhya is that Karanam of the universe is Prakriti Pradhanam, which is Nityam eternal. And the third one which they say is that Karyam, the Prapancha, which is born out of Pradhanam, is Anityam. Right? Now, if you take the second statement that Karanam is, which is Pradhanam, is Nityam, and the third statement that Karyam, which is the Jagat, the universe, Anityam, what is the defect between these two statements and the first statement, which says Karanam is equal to Karyam? You can write it down if you want and then look at it. First statement, Karanam is equal to Karyam. Second statement, Karanam is Nityam. Third statement, Karyam is Anityam. Do
So
you see
what?
any contradiction?
When they're equal, they're same, then how can one be Nitya, the other will be Anitya?
Excellent. So this statement number 2 and 3 are in direct contradiction of statement number 1. Agreed?
Yes, Acharya.
Okay. So either both Karanam Karyam should be Nityam because of the first statement, Karanam is equal to Karyam, or both should be Anityam. And therefore, we know that Prapancha is Anityam. Right? Therefore, to generalize, whatever is a Karanam is always subject to birth. You can never say that a Karanam is never born. You agree?
I didn't get this, Acharya. Karanam we are talking about is Pradhanam,
You take
which we said. Yeah.
anything which is drishta, perceptual.
Yes,
I am born from whom? My parents.
my parents.
My parents, did they have a Karanam?
Yes, their parents.
My grandfather, did they have a Karanam?
Yes.
So in the Prakriti, in the Pratyaksha Pramanam tells you that whatever is born has a cause which is also born.
Okay. Yes.
Everybody's getting this very, very involved argument. Okay.
Yes.
Please
Yes.
don't.
Yes,
Right.
Acharya.
Whatever
Yes.
is born has a cause, and the cause is also born. But Sankhya's philosophy is what? Mula Prakriti. Mula Prakriti is the name for, Mula means root, the basic. Basic Prakriti is Avikriti. That is, in Sanskrit, Mula Prakriti Avikriti. Vikriti means change. Avikriti means changeless. And Sankhya's philosophy is that Prakriti is changeless and therefore cannot be born. Right? Now we have seen that Prakriti is not changeless. Why? We just saw Karanam is Karyam, Karanam is Nityam, Karyam is Anityam. Right? Okay. So this theory is logically wrong. This is what is being said over here. You don't have any pratyaksha pramanam to show you that a karanam is changeless or a karanam is birthless. You don't have any such pratyaksha pramanam. Therefore, the Sankhya philosophy that Mula Prakriti Pradhanam is changeless cannot be correct. Okay. There is another contradiction. When the milk, for example, has transformed into curds, will the milk exist?
No.
No. The transformation, the real transformation of milk into curds or yogurt, milk will no longer exist. It has perished. Remember, there is no concept of mithya in Sankhya. So there is a real karanam, which is pradhanam, prakriti, and that real karanam, pradhanam, has transformed into creation. The transformation is real. The real satyam pradhanam has become a satyam jagat. Will the pradhanam then exist? Is the question.
With the milk curd example, it should not exist. It
That is, you are
completely
saying from
converts.
Pratiksha point of view. But remember
Yeah.
that Prakriti, you have to take the same logic. It is total transformation because Prakriti is real, Pradhanam is real, and Jagat is real. And therefore, there is a total transformation. Anything which changes totally can no longer exist in the same form.
Right.
And therefore, the question here is, how can the Sankhya philosophers say that Prakriti is Nitya? They cannot say. Then you can say, okay, fine. As a Sankhyavadi, I will say that, okay. What I meant was that Prakriti does not totally transform into creation. Only a part of Prakriti gets converted. Therefore, Prakriti is Nityam. Is that a plausible argument?
No,
Why?
because it has to be complete. If a part of it is changing, then again the whole is not there.
That is not the argument. There is no reason why a part cannot change. But in this case, the argument is that the moment you say a part of Prakriti changes, what are you saying? Prakriti has got parts. Right? And we know that logically, anything which has got parts is subject to destruction. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Anything which has got parts is a composed body. Right? It is not Nityam at all because that parts have come together like a motor car. You got a body, you got
Assembly.
assembly. It's an assemblage. Any assemblage has to be anityam. And the moment that you say that Prakriti, part of Prakriti converts, you are saying Prakriti is anityam. Because anything which has got parts has got to be anityam. Therefore, the argument is that we use is that the Vedanti says, oh Sankhyavadi, it doesn't matter whether Prakriti completely transforms into Jagat or partially transforms into Jagat. Prakriti, in both cases, Prakriti will be Anitya only. So please think about this. Have you understood?
Yes, Acharya.
No doubts? Fine. All right. So Now we go to the next Karika. Karika number 12. कारणात् यदि अनन्यत्वम्
कारणात् यदि अनन्यत्वम्
अथ कार्यम् अजं यदि
अथ कार्यम् अजं
अथ
अथ
यदि
कार्यमजं यदि
यदि
जायमानाद्यवैकार्यात्
जायमानाद्वैकार्यात्
जायमानाद्वैकार्यात्
कारणं ते कथं ध्रुवम्
कारणं ते कथं
कारणं
ध्रुवम्
ते कथं
कथं
ध्रुवम्
ध्रुवम्
Okay. So, यदि कारणात् अनन्यत्वम् anya means different, ananya means not different, right? So he says yadi karanat ananyatvam, so that you have to add to it. If the non-difference of the karanam is accepted, non-difference of what from the karanam? The first quarter simply means in literal translation, if the non-difference from the karanam is accepted.
from the karyam.
कार्यम
If the non-difference of the karyam from the karanam is accepted. That is the full expansion of the sentence. So it's all Karikas, very short, very brief. You have to expand. First quarter means if the non-difference of the karyam from the karanam is accepted, then ataha, then karyam ajam. Then there is no question of the karyam being born. You understand?
Yes.
Okay. Then yadi karanam, if the cause, you have to say here ananya, is not different from the effect jayamana divai, which is born, how katham dhruvam, how can it be eternal for you, O Sankhya philosopher? Okay, so this is all, as I said, very, very obtuse and confusing structure. So we'll try to understand. We talk of another defect. We saw one defect in the earlier Karika. Now we talk about another defect. Karanat yadi anandatvam. If the karanam is equal to the karyam, and this we have explained, if the karanam is not different to the karyam, which means what? If the karanam is nityam, obviously the karyam also has to be nityam. Ataha karyam ajam yadi. That's what you mean. If the karanam you say is the same as the karyam, not different, and you say karanam is eternal, obviously what are you saying? Karyam also should be eternal. Therefore, if pradhanam, prakriti, is the same as prapancha, the universe, either both must be nityam or both must be anityam. Right? Okay. Now, supposing the Sankhya philosopher says one part of prakriti is nityam and one part gets transformed is anityam. I've already explained this to you in simple language as the gist. We are just seeing what the Karika is saying. The idea is simple. Karika is saying the same thing. If one part is nityam and the other part is anityam, then Shankara gives in his commentary, he says, a very nice analogy. Nahi kukataya ekadesha prasavaya. Kukataya is what? Kukut. Kukut, you don't know. Hen or a chicken. Right? Prasavaya gives birth. What does a chicken give birth to?
Anda.
Eggs. Right? So Shankara says, Kukutaya ekadeshe prasavaya. Ekadeshe means part. So Shankara is saying that this statement, that one part of Prakriti is Nityam and the other part gets transformed into Jagat, it is like saying Ekadeshe kukutaya, I will use part of the chicken to lay eggs. And ekadeshe pachyate, the other part of the chicken I will use to make chicken curry. You understand? What is he saying? No? Let me repeat. Shankara says that the saying that the Sankhya philosopher, when he says that one part of Pradhanam is eternal and the other part gets converted into the world, is like him saying that I have one chicken and I will use one part of the chicken to lay eggs, and with the other part of the chicken, I will make curry. What is the idea?
It's not possible because to make the curry we have to cut the chicken and it's divisible.
So, the idea is that it is the same defect which is mentioned in the previous Karika we saw. Which means how can something which is changing be Nitya? Right? When you cut the chicken, it is changing. You can't have both. The construction here is very, very complex. Okay, the construction of the sentences are very complex. That's why I'm not going individually into too many of these words. The bottom line is what? Jagat is not a karyam. It is only an appearance. There is no such thing called Srishti creation. And therefore, Ganapada is saying that you should read what I say. The whole thing is called Ajativadaha. No creation at all. When you say, it simply means that no creation at all. That is the Vedantic view, which is that creation is mithya. It doesn't really exist at all. Okay. Karika number 13. Ajad vai jayate yasya
Ajadvai jayate
Yeah.
drishtantastasya nasti vai
दृष्टान्तस्तस्य
Drishtantasya
नास्ति वै
nasti vai.
जाताच्च जायमानस्य
जाताश्च
Jatacha
जायास्य
jayamanasya.
अव्यवस्था प्रसज्यते.
व्यवस्था
Navyavastha
प्रसज्यते.
prasajyate.
So he says, again, the sentences are very complex. While I explain the words to you, you'll wait for the actual explanation to understand. Asti vai. There is nothing. Drishtanta. Drishtanta asti vai. There is no example. Tasya. For him. Yasya. For whom. Jayate ajata vai. An effect, a product is born from ajata vai, from an unborn karanam. So for that person for whom there is a karyam which is born from a unborn karanam, he says there is no drishtanta at all. There is no example which we have which can explain his view, and for that person, prasajyate, there will be na vyavastha. Na vyavastha is infinite regression. You can never come back to the first cause. Jayamanasya, of the effect which is born. Okay, don't go by just those words. Let me discuss in a little bit more detail. To understand this verse, you have to grasp one more principle of Sankhya. Remember that Sankhya basically uses anumanam, inference, to arrive at the idea that pradhanam is the cause. So they say pradhanam, they use 2-3 different words. Prakriti, pradhanam, moola prakriti, all which is the same. Okay, we must know these words. They say this is the original cause of the world, but is that pradhanam perceptible to you? Is it a pratyaksha pramanam vishaya? It is not. You agree? Pradhanam, the moola prakriti, This is not matter, okay? Matter you can see. There's a difference between matter and Mula Prakriti. Mula Prakriti is that which you cannot see, something like unmanifest Maya to understand. So they say that this Mula Prakriti is not perceptible. Okay. Now, if something is not perceptible by your five sense organs, what is the way in which you can come to know about that thing?
Anumana.
Anumana. Inference. And therefore, when you ask the Sankhya philosopher this, that if this Mula Prakriti, a pradhana of yours, it is not available to our perception, how then can you say that pradhanam is there and it is the Mula Karanam for the universe? They say they have arrived at it by Anumana. And therefore, interestingly enough, one more name is there for Prakriti, Pradhanam, or Mula Prakriti. That name is Anumanam itself. So whenever you read Prakriti, Pradhanam, Mula Prakriti, Anumanam, these four are always referring to Pradhanam, the basic cause of the universe according to Sankhya. Now, do you know how Anumanam functions? Anumanam requires a general statement of invariable coexistence, which is called what in Sanskrit? How do you make an inference? What is the basis of making any inference?
Pratyaksha.
Give an example.
You just gave, like, if I know that there is fire on the mountain, I'll see this. If I see the smoke, I will assume that there's fire.
So you see the smoke on the mountain. You have not seen the fire. Okay, from the smoke, you make a anumanam saying that because of the smoke, there is a fire. What is that statement based upon?
The pratyaksha, which I saw that there's smoke.
Not this particular smoke. This particular smoke, you are not knowing anything about the fire. You are basing this anumanam on some previous experience
Past experience.
past experience where you have seen that wherever there is fire, there is smoke.
Correct.
You are clear?
Yes.
Unless I know from my past experience that wherever there is fire, there is smoke, I will not be able to make the anumanam. There is smoke on the mountain, therefore there is fire. Agreed?
Yes.
Everybody?
Yes, Arjun.
Okay. This statement saying that wherever there is smoke, there is fire is a statement which is known in logic as the statement of invariable coexistence. It is called Vyapti. Vyapti Vakyam in Sanskrit. Vyapti means invariable coexistence of two things. So here there is fire and there is smoke. And once the Vyapti Vakyam is there, then you can make Anumanam that wherever there is smoke, there is fire. You should note that the reverse is not true. Okay. Wherever there is fire, there need not be smoke. Do you agree?
Yes.
A gas stove, for example, there is fire, but there is no smoke. So you cannot make the reverse statement that wherever there is fire, there is smoke. That is wrong. So insufficient anumanam, incorrect anumanam. Okay, that's a basic. Now, Sankhya philosopher says Prakriti is the karanam for the entire universe. And he says Prakriti is nityam. And this, he says, is derived through inference, anumanam. What is derived through anumanam according to Sankhya? Prakriti is karanam for the whole world. This is one derivation. The other one is Prakriti is nityam. Okay. What is your argument? See, why are we going to perceptual data? Because of the fact that there should be Vyapti statement, a statement of invariable coexistence always needs to be based on pratyaksham, on sense organ perception. Agreed? You cannot say that wherever there is smoke, there will be fire, unless you have seen throughout your life that it is a statement which is invariably true. Agreed or not?
Ji Acharya ji.
Anybody who has doubts? Okay. So, what was the statement based upon? Wherever there is smoke, there is fire is based upon my perception. It's perceptual data gathered from my perceptual past experience. Now, when the Sankhya philosopher says that Prakriti, which is Nityam and is also cause of the world, what is my argument? The perceptual data which I can gather from my sense organs tells me what? Whatever is a cause, is a karyam, has a cause. And whatever is the cause on analysis, you will find that cause is also a karyam itself. And that's why I give the example. If I am the karyam, the cause, the karanam, the product, my parents are the cause. When I shift my analysis to my parents, I find that they are also a product and the grandparents are the cause. Similarly, when I look at the tree, I see that it comes from the seed, right? When I look at the seed, what is the cause for the seed?
Tree.
Another tree, right? Therefore, all your perceptual experiences, perceptual data gathered via sense organs, what do they prove? That every cause, every karanam on analysis shows itself to be the karyam of another cause. And therefore, anything which is karyam, is it nityam or anityam?
Anitya.
Anitya.
Therefore, the statement of invariable coexistence is what? Wherever there is karanam, there is anityam, anityatvam. The status of being nityam is not existing in any karanam at all. The inference is what? Since the effect, the product is anityam, the cause must also be anityam. Okay? Struggling a bit? That is the Vyapti statement, invariable coexistence statement. And if you go by this Vyapti statement, you will find that the Sankhya philosopher's idea that Prakriti is a Karanam, is Nityam, will be wrong. Because it is a fallacy. The right Anumanam should be that since Prakriti is a Karanam, like any other Karanam, Prakriti must also be Anityam. Because Sankhya philosopher has no example to show you the Nityatvam, the fact that any Karanam can be eternal. All the variability proves that whatever is the cause is Anityam. And this is what is meant by there is no example. In the Karika, it says there is no example for that. The Sankhya philosopher cannot show you an example to prove that any Karanam is Nitya. Okay. So there are, this is the Yukti Virodha Dosha, the defect in logic. Thus, there are three defects. The fact that Karanam is Anityam is a defect. The fact that Karyam is Nityam is a defect. And these ideas are contrary to logic. And this is what is being said in the first line. Drishtantaha na asti. Oh, Sankhya philosopher, there is no example which you can show to show that such an entity as the eternal cause, the Nitya Karanam exists. On the other hand, we Vedantists can have sufficient data to tell you that Karanam can never be unborn. Anadi Karanam, unborn Karanam, is a logical contradiction. And therefore, Yasya Ajat Jayate Vai. For that Sankhya philosopher who says that from the beginningless, from the eternal Prakriti, the world is born, he accepts Prakriti as Karanam. Simultaneously, he says that that Karana Prakriti is Anadi, is eternal. So, Gaudapada says that you have to know that the status of being a Karanam and the status of being eternal can never coexist. And there is no such example that you can give me which can prove this idea that there is a cause which is eternal. Okay. Any questions? I think we'll stop with this. We'll continue from here next time onwards. But any questions? It's no longer quite heavy from now on. So you have to be able to revise each and every class before you come in again.
Yes, Acharya.
So with this, we'll stop. Thank you for your patience. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vasishyate Om Shanti 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 Om Tat Sat Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you for your patience. Om Om.
Thank you, Taraji.